boxes here. We're out in the show there. So I started out with a little over a pound of clay for this. Center it up. Now I just go in. I don't have quite enough clay for this. Make it a little bit smaller. I just go across the bottom. I'm using that like a rib. Side of my finger before I'm ready for the rib. I don't even think I ribbed these on the bottoms, but bring it up and in.
Up and in.
Now I always, after I bring something up, I always stop at the top with my two fingers and I go and I compress that rim.
Okay.
Keeps it all on center. Got to keep a nice rim on the piece. Sometimes people will just ignore that as they're working on a piece, but that'll help hold the piece on center. I guess what I'm talking about on up and in is that basically when you're making a straight jar or a round jar, you have to get it to go up and in first. So now you can almost see where my finger is on the inside sticking out, that lump. I'm going to be just a little bit below it and I go up and in. Come over it. Do the big ones and screw this one. I use the side of my thumb and just flatten it off in there. Then I cut a little ridge along the bottom. What is that? That red thing.
Some yesterday drink.
Got that little cut off, and I just pick it up along the base there. Just lay it down. I don't know. I use this part of my hand on the outside. I cock my hand back like that so that I don't have to use a lot of effort. It's supported by my arm. Okay? I'm not out here trying to muscle. Go right there. Then I just lay over the top, keep both hands together, and I squeeze down and out just a little bit. And I ease off. That's how I center. That's how I center on a big one. And this, I'm just using that little part down in there, like that. Go down, open it up, and bring it out. I'm making that about 3/8 of an inch thick. Generally, I don't check that with the needle. And like I say, I'm using a little less clay than I normally would. They're a little smaller. Bring it up and in. Stop on the top, press that around. I thinned that one out too much. This one's a little better shape. So now I'll just come down, clean out that bottom a little bit, use the side of my rib and work up on the inside. Just see how I'm scraping away. I'm not leaving any of that wet stuff in there. Lay that top over. Yeah, I need a little more right there. Get rid of that in the middle. Now I've got that bent over, and I'm just gonna support it underneath, support it here with a finger, support the bottom underneath, and then I'm gonna lay this rib right there and make that rim. I could do that with, my fingers. but at this point I'm just more or less finishing it. And I leave this edge a little thicker. A little angle on it. So I might throw either, I used to throw a dozen of them. I think when I got the Amico wear racks, I had to change the size of my boards a little, so 10 would fit on there, 10 boxes at a time. Or else I'll make half, 5 boxes, 5 lids. Now, I would throw all those boxes, and now I would take, if I had 10 of them, I would have 15 pounds of clay or something here. I'm going to throw these off the hump. That's what on this I might give it a little up and down. But I think the trick is, after you come up, you have to go down with it a little bit, or else you're going to get S cracking. Okay? Now,
Knew that was going to happen. He had tools in there.
calipers. I measure the inside of that. Normally I'll measure that first one, I'll make the rest of them the same size. Just the inside. Now, I mean, if you're not sure, once you open this up, you know, give yourself, I'm almost there. So, now, I'm just going to open that up, make a fat little bowl. Now, at this point, you might just check here, you got your fat little rim, and I'm just more or less splitting that with my measurement. And that's just before I go any farther with it. I might not give it this check here, you know, but it might be a good idea to check it. Now, what I'm going to do is hold a finger underneath, and then, or I can go underneath with that finger inside. Okay, I'm going to go here, finger on the inside, now I'm just going to split it with my thumb. It works better when I'm not talking. But anyway, I'm a little off. Now I could go back in if it needed to be. Okay, I'm a little short of it now. So what I'm going to do is go back here in the middle. I'm going to go get me a little more down here and bring it out. And now I'm going to go underneath, thumb right here, and define that a little more. And I've brought it out just a little more. Now there are limitations to how much you can stretch at after you've already split it. And you want to make it, that's maybe on the thin side as far as. So I'm just measuring the outside of this now, the socket. It's going to fit down inside. Now, I might clean that up. Now if you make this too flat, you're going to have too flat of a pot. So I generally have a little rise to it from the center. So it's, again, like a plate. It's coming out from the center and it's rising just a little. And this line should continue on through there where that socket is out to here. For what I'm doing, I just want a dome shape. So, I kind of got that there. I'm just going to take that rib, clean her up, and then I'm going to drop down here and clean that up and straighten up that socket to where it's more or less straight up and down. But really, right in here is where the measurement needs to be, right down there at the bottom. And I'm a little big now, whereas it was a little small, so I'm just going to shove it back in just a little bit. But that's my favorite lid to make. I mean, that's, you know, that can do that, teapot, box.
Now, will that lid work for both those forms because
Yes.
you've got the raised? Okay.
Now the lip that goes into the pod, is that angle at all, or you have a 90 degree?
This?
Yeah.
I don't want it out you know. On
No,
top.
I mean, do you angle it in a little bit so it
It
fits
is a
in the-
little. I'll accept that.
Okay.
And later on, I'll probably adjust it again when I'm
Okay.
trimming it.
But you rather have straight up and down at 90?
Yeah.
Okay.
If anything, that gets it, you know, it's straight up and down there and it's coming straight out. Actually, I want this up just maybe a little more to hide that. You know, so
Okay.
you're not looking in underneath and seeing that rim on that jar. I want that hidden. So, and I usually achieve it.
The operative word there is usual.
Or else I pawn it off on an unsuspecting customer.
Oh, the gal that buys so
Yeah,
much?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I get that one too.
I recognize that piece.
I just started out, make a little bowl, and I'm just gonna do it this time. There it is. Then I'll come back in. You can use a tool to split that too, if you don't like your finger. You know, you can use like a,
Obstacles too.
yeah. I'll just go back in and straighten that up. And like I say, what I'm looking for is, you know, a straight line through there. I guess as I look back on pots I made 20 years ago, the lids look too flat to me, you know, among other things. So I've always gone with it. In the dome, you need somewhat, if it's too flat, it will cave in the firing maybe. You know, that's another. So you get that support.
The dome such as this one over here you're speaking of.
Well, I'm calling that a bit of a dome too, but
Okay.
that is more of a dome. And I want the thickness about the same on this as you want on here too. Like I say, it's a little thinner right here than maybe I'd like. That, when they're drying, will make them dry the same. Or else if you make this too thin and that too thick, they're probably not going to fit. They're going to dry differently. And generally, I think, you know, when you're just starting out on a lid like that, you tend to get that too thin. And then maybe you have to adjust it and it's just way too thin. You know, and then that causes it. Generally, if this is thin and your pot's thicker, the thinner is going to shrink more, and then your lid's going to be looser still.
Now, what about knobs? Do you have a technique that you enjoy doing?
It's
with
extra.
your- huh?
Give him another beer.
It's on it. How about a
Sounds more like
shock
Gary
top?
all the time.
Shock top will get him.
You got a donation tub, you can find out.
Okay.
I don't think people.
I'll
Ah,
get you one.
yeah, in a little bit.
I opened him one over there.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, I thought you were. I thought you locked.
that was
I thought you locked on.
I thought you were-
No, he's the
Oh, I didn't get the. I didn't get the hand signal. That's right. I missed that.
I'm going to make a dome. This other box I don't make, but it's similar to that two-tiered thing. I've made all sorts of tiered boxes. I used to make little tiny tiered boxes. You know, I had 3 or 4, and then I put gold luster on them and stuff out of porcelain. And, you know, they'd have like 4 stacks on them. But, you know, once you got a kill like that, you're not working on lots of little. You know, I went to that. So I'm going to make the lid. Now on this, I make on these I make the pot first and fit the lid to that. So on that type of jar, it's just easier to make the lid first. I mean, if you have a good idea of what you're making. I don't have quite as much clay as I should. Again, I haven't made these in a while, but these are generally a little bigger than that box. So I'm starting again with the same heavy bowl. Going to rise up a little bit. Now I'm going to split that. Recenter it. And again, I'm going to leave this a little thicker right here. The whole thing is a little thicker. And again, the idea is to have that line continue through out here, more or less. It is a little straighter right here. Now on this one, like I say, usually that box is more. I use about 1.5 inches of clay. On this one, I measure all the way to the outside edge. And that's going to be how I make the bottom piece. So I'm just making a small bowl now. And I'll leave this, it's going to have a foot on it like that base. So I'll leave that probably 3/4 of an inch thick right there. Now I just bring out this bowl, a little edge on it. I'm raising it out and I compress that edge. Like that. Now I'll go back in. This is a little thinner than and I'm just forming, I just have a straight rim up here. Now I want to measure the outside of that. I'm a little bit too far out. And I might leave that a little thicker than necessary. And then they should fit.
So you mean, in that case, you need the lid first. I've never done that.
Well, the lid, that's the hardest part on this pot, it seems to be. So, and really, I don't know, there's one of those on there finished. One of the, I call these domes, I call those rain jars. Since I've discontinued the dome, it's just a box now, but, so that's, I don't know, man, two boxes. You're welcome to check those out. Okay.
Would you start with about 1 pound of clay or less?
Yeah, I should have had really about 1.25 pounds for those two, and I should have had at least 1.5 pounds for these, because I think I was just on 1 pound.
1.5 pounds each, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and then I like say it's about 1.25 pounds for that, probably almost 3/4 of a pound. So if I'm making 10 jars, I'll just wedge up 10 pounds of clay, so I'll have that. And I might make a couple extra, and I might make a couple of them smaller and bigger, just because I'll usually just fit them up after I have, if I have 10 of them, I'll mix and match till I get the best fit. And then if they don't fit, I fix them. And
I noticed you didn't measure the socket, the outside of the socket to the inside of the bowl. You were about to make the slot.
on that one,
Yeah.
well, that's what I was saying. I measured the outside on that one. When it's done, I really want this to be the same. And I can adjust that when I'm trimming it too. But, so that's why I'm measuring the outside, just to make sure this is,
just enough over.
yeah. I want it really, it's going to be almost
Right on.
flush,
Like
you
that,
know.
like that.
So when you trim, are you gonna put the two pieces together and then trim it?
That's how I do.
You're gonna do that tomorrow night, right?
Yeah, I was thinking if it was warmer, I might have. So,
We can crank the heat up here.
Bring it up.
It'll be all right. I still got a few things. I'll throw more than I probably get trimmed tomorrow night, but I'll definitely get those plates trimmed. And, the jars take the most time, and the teapots take the most time. So, now I'm going to go with throw these.
He's got work to do.
I know. There goes your beer.
I think I'm gonna go with bats. I was throwing these without bats, and so this is a whole nother way I do this. This is,
So how did you throw them without bats on top of the clay slab?
well, I put that plastic on
Oh.
there and just lift them off.
Got it.
I don't know, lately I'm not into that. I think I mash them up too much when I get them off there, so I'm taking a little more time to ensure the integrity of the product. Oh, I broke these out. I usually spray like small plates on these bats, and I've had them for, some of these bats are from college, you know, some of those plaster ones, if you take care of them, they last. But I'm about due to make some new bats all the way around, I think. But these have lasted, you know, good masonite lasts a long time. I have thrown on plaster bats before. I only throw my small plates on plaster bats, and a dry plaster bat will absorb a lot of the water out of the extra clay I leave in for the foot, because I foot everything. So I like that. If I had a plaster bat big enough, I might, you know, I would throw those on them. But then you're talking extra weight too and stuff. And so I live with that. But as far as jars, I've thrown plaster bats on, or jars on plaster bats, but it kind of, if you're not paying real close attention, that sometimes dries it out on the bottom too much and you'll get a S-crack after you trimmed it. So I also, you know, I put a foot on all my pots, and that probably takes another 2/3 amount of time, rather than throwing a flat bottom. Like everything that we made when I worked for Kuharic had a flat bottom on it. You know, there was no foot, and sometimes it wasn't trimmed. You just took a thumb and thumbed the
That's
bottom
what
off.
Barry did. On his mugs and cups.
Kathy does the same too.
Yeah.
Well, I trim, but I thumbed him for him. I even raced him once and beat him trimming him while he was thumbing him. But anyway, I used to throw that porcelain. I have some real eggshell bowls and stuff I made, and I was really working with translucency. And when I started working with that guy, he said, you got to make your pots thicker, you know, for durability. And so anyway, so they're all thicker now. Easy. Okay, I'm gonna make a jar. I'm gonna start out, I'll do one cylinder and one rounded jar, and then the teapots will be kind of rounded. I'm going to do just really a tall cylinder. I kind of like that shape. For this one, I'm probably going to leave a considerable amount, almost an inch of clay at the bottom, and then I will cut a foot in it later. So I centered this one up higher. This is going to be about the diameter of the foot of the piece. And I think for time making them, I like them narrower, at least lately, but sometimes the pots will, I mean, they're all variations on the same thing, you know? It's just the same thing, different. Or the same. Not exactly the same.
I understand.
So if they're different, they're actually the same.
There's that cylinder only curved in. There's the box I was talking about, you know, that I was measuring the outside edge for it.
Oh, look, there's knobs.
There's knobs. There's another knob. Yeah. Now this I'm going to leave about an inch thick. Make the bottom flat. I'm going to carve those feet into it sometime. Now, as far as up and in goes, that's what it's all about.
Up and in.
I'm not going there.
Me neither.
I think it's in my
Up
bag.
and in. Okay. Now you can see I've opened that up, and you want to be careful not to bring that out and pin this, to where you pinch this off here. And maybe I've over-exaggerated it by doing that. But what I'm going to do, at first, again, I want to be over the top, elbows in the sides, elbows on the legs, something. Give yourself whatever you can. I mean, if you can't, then you can't. But anytime you can, get your elbows into your sides. Sometimes that works good in your sides, and you can just pull up without a lot of the arm thing. So, now what I'll usually do, I've got this is the right diameter on the inside that I'm going to end up with. For the up and in thing, what I'm going to do, finger on the outside and the inside, just the side of the finger, and I'm just going to push the top in. Okay? Now I might go again from the bottom and push that back in a little more, maybe up just a little bit. And then I'm keeping this rim a little thicker. Okay? Keep a nice rim on it. I don't know, sometimes it is nice to just have this sponge in your hand, and you can give yourself a little water on the way up. Okay, up and in.
Equal pressure on either side.
I'm really pushing from the outside against the inside hand, and I'll squeeze in a little bit, and then I'm just more or less lifting them both up. But you can see where my inside hand is, for that big lump. And I'm going to move it up. Bring it in. I want this to be a cylinder when I'm done. Come down to the bottom. Right now it's all probably over a ½ inch thick. Come down to the
To
bottom.
ensure the thickness throughout, you just keep equal pressure.
Yes. And if anything, I'm going to start working it out of the top first and leave it thicker in the base. You can see my inside finger, right? So that's the positioning of it.
Jim, can you talk about your little finger on your left hand that stays outside? Does it have an action, or it's just out of the way?
That's just out of the way.
All right,
I could
okay.
do that way too.
Okay.
Now, after 2 pulls, I'll go back in. Scrape off that stuff. When I was making the porcelain, I would rib out those insides real good. Just if you leave that slip in there, if you want a perfectly flat surface, you have to get all of that off. And it doesn't hurt. I used to have small ribs, tiny ribs that I would use on the inside of a piece. It doesn't hurt to go down in, and I just scraped off the whole inside. Okay, that's after 2 pulls. A lot of times it's 3 pulls and you're almost done. Now I'm going down again. Again, you can see my finger on the inside.
So you're actually, for what you're pressing on the outside with the back of your index finger.
Using the tip of that index finger, really. And again, I use the tip of my finger, just like here, I use the heel of my hand because it's backed up by my arm. I use the tip of my finger rather than the inside of my finger because it's too wiggly. This is backed up by my finger, you know.
So the inside index is touching, I mean, basically, if there wasn't a clay there, you'd be,
I'm up a little on the inside. If you were throwing,
so you're kind of like a knuckle pull where you're cupped up under the ridge? Is that what we're?
I'm not.
aiming for?
I
Create a ridge under that bolt?
yeah.
Yeah, that
Good answer.
Sounds good.
Yeah, right.
Well, I have a hard time really explaining that totally. No, I mean,
I guess, is this finger below?
yes,
or
the outside
below?
finger is a little below. And the way I would explain that is that if you're making a pot with a flat bottom in it, that's probably how you're going to be. You know, you go to the inside of the flat bottom pot, you go all the way to the bottom of the outside, and I'm just a little below that. You know, there's a million variations on that too, on how different people do it.
And you use the tips of your fingers on it?
I use the tip.
Yeah, okay.
And another reason I don't really use the side, some people throw with a rib, you know, you can pull it up. I can. I like that one little point. I don't like making contact with. I don't use my knuckle.
Toes?
That's what I use.
2 minutes.
You can
So you don't like
use your
knuckle pull?
Well,
Do you do?
Yeah, I mean,
Have you tried using your knuckles and you didn't really like the feel? Or, I mean,
yeah,
was the
that's
knuckle
it.
pull not working?
yeah,
Whatever.
I don't like this, so I want to come up with something.
Right, I don't use it
from
up
the
before.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at books, they kind of suggest that, but
Right.
Better in knuckle.
Is it always underneath?
Knuckle jagger.
it's never up and out.
I just missed the canister. Anyway, it's just a random thought. Okay, one more time. I'm really gonna get on it here. I don't know, maybe I do use a couple of fingers.
You don't think about it after time, you know,
Uh-huh.
you don't think about what you're
Changes
doing
where you
after
are.
time.
Well, yeah, and it does that as I,
I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't throw a knuckle in once in a while.
Never.
Never.
Now, my issue is I always put a twist into the clay. Is it just putting too much pressure in one spot?
Okay, here we
not being lubricated enough,